There's supposed to be equilibrium arrows in that space in the middle. I don't know what happened. But this is a base reaction, and I can tell that it's not an acid reaction because if I look on my product side, I've got OH instead of H3O plus. Okay. Instead of Ka, I've got Kb over here. But remember, the Ka was just K. It's the same thing that I do for equilibrium reactions. It's products over reactants. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Here are my products. Here are my reactants. All the coefficients are 1, so I don't have to worry about exponents. What am I going to do with water? Ignore it. It's not in there. Why? It's a liquid. Okay. So this is what my Kb expression looks like. There's my products. Here's my reactants. So it's set up the same way I would do a Ka, but instead of having H3O plus on the top, I have OH minus. All right, so this is what we would call analogous. It's not exactly the same, but it's done the same way. So I get a very similar result. Okay, so I have a question that asks, what's the concentration of OH minus? So instead of H3O plus, I'm asking about OH minus in a solution of 0.27 molar CH3 and H2. That's methylamine. So just like with a weak acid, when I have a concentration on a bottle or concentration in the problem, if it's strong, that is the concentration of the ion, but this is weak. So if this is weak, this concentration is what I put for initial in my RICE table. Now, how do I know that this is a weak base? If I look at this, I don't have OH and I don't have O. Okay, but usually for my strongs, it's going to be a group 1 metal and one of those 2 ions. I can tell it's a base though, because I've got this nitrogen here. So nitrogen with hydrogen or a nitrogen with hydrogen attached to a carbon, it's probably a base. All right, so I got my chemical reaction. That's my R. My initial row, I'm putting my concentration that was given to me in the problem. If they don't give me concentrations of products, I just leave them as 0. I don't have anything under hydrogen because it's not in my equilibrium. So it doesn't really matter. Even if they told me the concentration, I could leave it out. What do I do for C? Am I going to have numbers there? I'm going to have X's there, okay? Minus X for the reactants, plus X, plus X for the products. And then for the equilibrium row, I'm just going to combine the I and the C row. Now, what did I do with this little X here for my acid problems? We just kind of left it out. We ignored it. The reason we ignored it is we said if this number is really small, 10 to the minus 4 is pretty small, then usually the amount of X is so small, it's not really going to make a difference in what's going on. Okay? And so most of the time we can't. And so that's what we'll do here. All right, so we're going to take this row and we're going to plug it in up here, but we also need something on the other side of the equal sign. So don't forget that the K was also given to us. So the KB goes on one side of the equal sign and the X's go on the other side of the equal sign. So technically, we have X squared over 0.27 minus X. But we're going to say that this little X is so small, we're going to ignore it. Now we're going to see in this problem, we're fudging a little bit, but we're going to go ahead with that fudge. All right, so I got to rearrange this here. I've got an equal sign. What do I need to do to this problem? Multiply by 0.27. Okay, so that's going to give me my X squared. I haven't found X yet. So square root it. And then I'm going to ask myself, is X the answer to the question? So the question was, what's the concentration of OH? Is X the concentration of OH?
No.
All right, so I'm seeing some yeses and I'm seeing some no's, hearing and seeing. So let's back up to our ICE table. Yeah, so this X, it is the concentration of the methyl ammonium, but it's also the concentration of hydroxide. So we did answer the question. So sometimes that's the answer, not always. Now let's look at our assumption here about size. If I subtracted 0.01 from 0.27, would that change that 7? Technically it would. It would become 0.26. But if I plug that back into the calculation, I'd probably get something pretty similar. That's why I'm not going to worry about it too much. Technically, it would be a little different, but we're okay. All right. So concentration of OH minus is 0.01. Now, what if I was asked the pH? Do I take negative log of this number? Is that going to give me pH? That's going to give me POH, right? So if I have POH, which is going to be about 1.9, so if this were 0.01, it would be 2. So we're going to say it's a little less than that, 1.9. That's POH. So what am I going to do to find pH? 14 minus that. And so it'd be about 12.1. All right. So they look intimidating, but base problems are not that scary. Just tell yourself it's slightly different. Try something that looks familiar. Those of you that came in late, don't forget if you have your full pH, turn that in. If you have test those in.
Have a nice weekend.
Put your name on it, and I'll get them back to you. Thank you.
Is it also like final place?
Yeah, so the ACS exam is 1 hour, and then I'll give you a 1 hour final that will probably be about 60% equilibrium in acids, and then about 40% just stuff that wasn't really tested on the ACS that I want to teach them.
Okay, gotcha. And then, so during the final, will we be given, like, last semester we had like a piece of paper that we had notes and stuff on?
So you can't use that on the ACS.
Right.
ACS, you got to use their rules because we want to keep it consistent.
Yeah.
But once you turn that in, then yes.
Okay. And it'll be a full sheet paper again?
Sure.
We have 2 finals, the ACS and.
Yeah.
The same day or what?
Yes, it's back to back. So 1 hour for each, but most people finish the ACS or give up on the ACS in about half hour, 45
Give
minutes.
up, as in it's option. Is it?
It's hard.
Oh.
But
It's curved, right? It's normalized, which means they want the average person to have a 50%.
Okay.
So I'm not going to say a 50% is an F. I'm going to say a 50% is the median grade in this class, which will probably be a BC.
All right. That is next Monday.
No, you'll have to look at I'll put it on the board over here, but you'll have to look at the files.
Okay.
I think for us it's Saturday and I won't be here. So somebody else will be, no. For us it is the following. So it might be Monday, might be Tuesday. Yeah, it's like the 12th or the 13th. I'm not sure which day.
is part 2 of the exam also cumulative or just over?
My part is going to be about 60% chapter 13 and 14, which wasn't on any exam yet. And about 40% just from the rest of the chapter or the rest of the semester that I want to make sure you still know. And I'll let you know next Wednesday what those portions are. Since the ACS exam is so hard, I tend to weight that less. So I want to make sure that you know, for my part, what to study since there's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't want you spending all your time trying to solve them.
Did not expect to be